My name is Emily Frank. I am a member of the Masters of Mass Customized Learning program at Wilson College, and the title of my study is Effective Goal Setting on Academic Achievement in Reading Among Fourth Graders. Statement of the problem. Throughout the state of Pennsylvania, many elementary learners are struggling to reach proficiency. On the left-hand side, you can see the chart showing the last 5 years that the state standardized test has been given. On the chart, it shows the percentage of learners who scored basic or below basic on the PSSA test. A large percentage of learners throughout the state are struggling to even get to the proficient standard. This brings us to the idea of goal setting. As educators strive to find strategies to help their learners show growth, they come across strategies such as goal setting. In 1968, Edwin Locke introduced the goal setting theory. And the theory is just the idea that our behavior is related to our individual goals. The need for the study. Goal setting aligns with the mass customized learning vision because it really takes the individual goal of the child and helps them get to where they need to go based on their individual goals. It's going to customize their learning to meet those goals and develop a pathway to help them get there. Goal setting in education may lead to growth, and it's something that could be explored further, and this study explores further as well. Purpose of the study. The purpose of this study was to determine if there was a correlation between that goal setting piece and the academic achievement in reading among fourth graders. The research question of the study was, does goal setting affect academic achievement in reading? The hypothesis was that there would be a positive correlation between goal setting and both reading level and reading fluency. There were some limitations of the study. This study was conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Therefore, there was a transitioning of learners happening between brick and mortar schooling and virtual learning. At the beginning of the year, learners and their families were able to decide if they would be joining a virtual class or if they would be joining an in-person class. There was some shifting throughout the school year, and we will come back to this a little bit later as well when we talk about limitations later on. There were also no in-person meetings. All the members of this study were part of the virtual online class. So all meetings that occurred between the researcher and the learner happened online. Finally, some learners may have had more parental involvement at home than others. Review of literature. The first study that was reviewed was based on members taking online courses. So completers and non-completers were both given a self-regulated learning questionnaire to determine tools that they used when completing these courses. And completers were found to be much more likely to use goal-setting skills than non-completers of the course. This showed that the successful online learners were utilizing those goal-setting skills. In another study that was reviewed, the researcher met with the learner for 2 to 3 minutes in the beginning of each class and created a goal for transition times and the order of transitions that would occur. 3/4 of those learners showed significant decrease in the percent latency that was shown during transition times. This suggested that there was a positive correlation between intrinsic motivation and goal setting. In another study, 2 classes of high school seniors in Nigeria were both learning the English language. The research group received 80 minutes of goal-setting training weekly, and this included the use of SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely or time-bound goals were used and taught to these learners. So they were taught both the goal-setting skills and they used those skills to create goals to learn the English language. The group that had the training displayed significant growth in goal-setting skills and English language skills, whereas the other group did not show significant growth in either. Dodson collected data from a fourth grade class's reading scores on a state assessment. During their fifth grade year, they then worked on creating SMART goals, making a plan, progress monitoring, and celebrating their successes. The fifth grade reading state assessment scores were compared to the fourth grade scores, and students labeled as showing adequate growth increased by 9%. Now, it should be noted that this was the only data source, and the fifth grade assessment may have been developmentally less difficult than the fourth grade assessment. Estrada and Warren paired goal setting with a culturally responsive classroom and a creative-centered classroom. An essay was given prior to the intervention and at the end of the course, and the percentage of learners who failed to complete their essays and the percentage who had failing essay grades both dropped by over 67% by the end of the course. Subjects and setting. An original group of 22 fourth grade virtual learners was used in the convenience sample for the study. These learners were made up from 2 different elementary schools within a small district in rural Pennsylvania. There were 2 main research instruments used throughout the study. The first was Achieve 3000. This program measures Lexile or reading level growth. And the way that it works is learners get onto the program and they read articles at their independent reading level, which is determined in the beginning of the year through a test that is given in the program. And when they get on to read the articles, they will answer activity questions. If they complete 4 or more activities at 75% or above, their Lexile level is likely to increase. And if they do complete articles below 75% comprehension level, it is possible for their Lexile level to decrease. Throughout the study, learners were using Achieve 3000. They had access to Achieve 3000. It was not mandatory, but it was in their course as something they could do if they had extra time. The Maze assessment was given bi-weekly, and this is an assessment on the Amplify program in which learners read a passage and they will get to blanks within the passage where they have to look at 3 words and choose which word makes the most sense in the passage. This assessment measures oral reading fluency and was used bi-weekly throughout the study. Methods and procedures. This study used a correlation design. Baseline data was gathered for 2 months from the Maze assessment and Achieve 3000. Then the researcher began the implementation of the goal-setting strategy. This included teaching SMART goals and having one-on-one virtual meetings with the learners bi-weekly. Data was gathered from that goal-setting period for an additional 2 months to be compared to the baseline data. Data collection and analysis. The mean growth was collected for each checkpoint, so 2 before and 2 after goal setting. It was also collected overall before and after goal setting and compared. Joint bar graphs were created and reviewed to show the overall difference in mean growth before and after goal setting. Here's a short clip of goal setting with one of my learners.
And you had done 5 articles. Your goal this month was to complete 7 articles and increase by 10 Lexile points. So let's take a look at where you are. And I know I took a screenshot yesterday. Did you do any articles?
Findings. Starting with figure 1 on the top right-hand corner, this shows the average Lexile growth pre and post goal setting. The blue bar shows before goal setting, and the red bar shows the average Lexile growth after goal setting. It is broken into males and females, but there was not a significant difference between the two. So looking at the overall bars of before and after, overall the mean growth shown before goal setting was negative 0.33 Lexile points, and the mean growth after goal setting was 25 Lexile points. Down below in Table 1, this is a table showing that the p-value was calculated to equal 0.01 using a t-test calculator, and this value does easily reach the standard for significance. A p-value of less than 0.05 is considered to be statistically significant, and the p-value was 0.01. That does show that this data is statistically significant in finding the overall growth before and after goal setting and the difference between them. Findings continued. Table 2 shows points of Lexile growth broken down into each individual learner. So you can see the 2 checkpoints before goal setting and the mean overall, and the 2 checkpoints after goal setting and the mean overall. The key shows the different colors, and the red is showing the lower Lexile average, the yellow shows the same Lexile average, and green shows higher Lexile average. So looking at the table, you can see that 10 of the 15 learners showed higher average Lexile growth after goal setting than before goal setting. Those are these green bars. 3 of the remaining 5 learners did not show mean growth or decline. Those would be your yellow bars. And the final 2 learners had a higher mean growth prior to goal setting. Those are the red bars. Figure 2 shows the table from the previous slide in a line graph. This shows the points of Lexile growth by each learner at each checkpoint. The yellow and red lines are the 2 checkpoints before goal setting, and the blue and green lines are the 2 checkpoints after goal setting. You can see on the left-hand side, that's the points of Lexile growth, and on the bottom, those are the individual learners represented by numbers instead of names. So each line shows the checkpoint of each learner. Looking at this graph, if you study the graph, you can see that 9 of 15 learners had at least 1 checkpoint after goal setting, showing higher average growth than either average growth checkpoint before goal setting. So either the green or the blue line was above both yellow and red lines. For 5 of the 15 learners, they had a higher average growth for both checkpoints after goal setting than either checkpoint before goal setting. So both the green and the blue lines were above yellow and red. And 1 of the 15 learners showed a higher average Lexile growth for at least 1 checkpoint before goal setting than either average growth checkpoint after goal setting. This would be either red or yellow was above red and green. Down below in figure 3, that's taking the checkpoints overall for before and after goal setting. So you have your overall pre-goal setting in red and your overall post-goal setting in blue. And that shows the average growth before and after goal setting of each learner. For 67% of the graph, the overall post-goal setting average is above the overall pre-goal setting average. Upon reviewing the data from the study, I wanted to see if it could be supported that the more time that was spent on Achieve 3000 completing articles resulted in a greater positive growth. Table 3 shows the average weekly activities that were completed by learners post-goal setting on Achieve 3000, and it breaks it into learners who showed positive growth and those who did not. The top row shows the first checkpoint from after goal setting, and you can see that learners that showed positive growth had an average weekly activities of 1.8, and learners who did not show positive growth had an average of 0.54 weekly activities completed. Likewise, in the second checkpoint, your learners with positive growth showed 2.65 as their average weekly activities, and those without growth showed 0.8. The average weekly completed activities of learners who showed positive growth was more than 3 times the average weekly completed activities of those learners who did not show growth. Figure 4 shows the average oral reading fluency growth pre and post goal setting. The blue bar shows before goal setting the average increase in words read, and the red shows post goal setting average increase in words read. Again, this data was broken into females and males with no statistical significance between the two. Looking at the overall results, we can see that the overall before goal setting increase in words was a 2.73 word increase, and the mean growth after goal setting was a 0.35 word increase. So there was not a huge difference between the two. Table 4 shows the results of the t-test calculator that was used to determine the p-value. And the p-value was calculated to equal 1.19. This value does not reach the standard for significance, which is a p-value of less than 0.05. Therefore, the data that was found from this portion of the study, collecting the oral reading fluency data, was deemed to be statistically insignificant. Conclusions. Statistically significant data showed that there was a positive correlation between goal setting and reading level growth among fourth graders. This supported the initial hypothesis of the study. However, there was no statistically significant data showing a correlation between goal setting and oral reading fluency. Therefore, this portion of the study did not support the initial hypothesis. In regards to reading level and the Achieve 3000 program, there was an increase of 25.67 point average Lexile growth after goal setting compared to before goal setting. Among the learners who showed the growth, there was 3 times the average weekly activities as there were among learners who did not show growth. And for oral reading fluency, which was the Mays assessment, there was a 2.38 word difference in average growth before and after goal setting, and this data was not statistically significant. Limitations. One of the limitations that came about due to the study occurring online was that learners occasionally missed and had to reschedule their one-on-one meetings. The researcher did make sure that all meetings occurred, but they did not always occur on the timeline that was originally planned. They may have occurred a day after they were originally scheduled. 7 of the original 22 learners moved back to brick and mortar during the study, and their data collection was never completed. Therefore, their data was not utilized for the study. Ideally, teachers should not progress monitor with Mays more than 1 or 2 times in between each benchmark. It was determined that the skill that it measures does not grow that fast, and progress monitoring that frequently will not actually detect those small changes. This is something that was learned after reaching out to the product management team at Amplify and this was likely a factor in the data being found to be statistically insignificant. Finally, Achieve 3000 adjusts Lexiles monthly, so even though goal setting was happening bi-weekly, we were only able to check in on how many activities and articles had been completed in the middle of each month, instead of checking in on the Lexile levels. So goal setting did still occur bi-weekly, but we did not check Lexile growth in the middle of the month. Implications for further study. This brings about the question, does having concrete steps to reach a goal result in greater success? One thing that was noticed was that in the Achieve 3000 program, learners had clear steps to take to achieve their goal. They knew that if they completed at least 4 articles above 75%, they were likely to show growth. However, with the Maze assessment, they were only given this bi-weekly, and any goals that they made were not tracked within the program. In Achieve 3000, if they knew that they wanted to complete at least 5 activities, they could keep track of that as they went. For oral reading fluency, if they knew they wanted to read 15 minutes a night, they could keep track of that by hand, but the program didn't track it for them, and that didn't necessarily result in showing growth each time they took the assessment. That brings about the question of if these concrete steps to track and reach a goal are an important part of goal setting. Another question to ponder is, could oral reading fluency be impacted by goal setting over a longer period of time if there was a clearer pathway to growth? Oral reading fluency was shown to not show that much growth in a smaller period of time. So it's possible that if it were to be measured over a longer period of time and learners had a more concrete pathway, that they could show growth through the goal setting strategy. Recommendations for classroom practice. Learners were excited and appeared more motivated while they were goal setting. Based on the results of the study and the tremendous difference in growth pre and post goal setting, it's believed that every learner should actively participate in goal setting in the classroom. This may look different depending on the age of the learner, but when able, goal setting should include conferencing with the facilitator to review data, celebrate success, and make additional goals. To bring goal setting school-wide, a school-wide reward system, such as a ticket system for positive behavior, could be used and set up by a positive behavioral interventions and supports team. A SMART goal could be made of when they will fill an entire jar of tickets, and learners can track their progress. Personal reflection. Throughout this process, I've learned the impact of small opportunities on my learners. Just by allowing them to meet with me for 10 minutes bi-weekly to make goals, most of them showed a dramatic increase in reading level. By reviewing research, I gained a more well-rounded understanding of goal setting and read about other effective strategies. Most importantly, I learned that just because I try a strategy and it doesn't work with one group of learners using one program, does not mean that it's not an effective strategy. Had I not tried goal setting with both reading level and oral reading fluency, I wouldn't have discovered the apparent positive effects goal setting can have on reading level. Resources.